needless to say, there is a reason why we are not watching it with you. We're recording this as a testament, and we're placing it in a safe location, so that in the event that we fail in our attempt to rectify what's been done, perhaps others will know what we know and try to help.
I'm a neurologist. I have an interest in neuromotor rehabilitation, and Thomas is a medical technology salesperson. We received a letter in the fall of 2008 from a venture capital organization called Zip Enterprises, which offered an astounding amount of money for employment with them for only a 4-month period.
The letter did not go into detail about what was involved, other than the job required our unique qualifications. We had to enroll as a couple. We had to swear to absolute secrecy, and we were to receive $400,000 for our compensation. Abby was unhappy with her position as director of a rehab facility, and I was in between jobs. But despite the rather unusual nature of this proposal, we were interested, especially in the money, which was equal to what we generally would make in several years. So we arranged an interview with Mr. Nicholas Channing at a local coffee shop. Mr. Channing was an interesting person, to say the least. Neither of us could describe him accurately after the meeting, although neither of us felt that he was nondescript in any way. It was strange, but it was exciting. If this wasn't any indication of the science we could be working in, well, it was a stimulating prospect for both of us.
Mr. Channing explained that the project was development of a new neurologic process based on unpublished discoveries. He said the project had incredible potential to change and even improve the human life experience. And he said that we need to know that the appointment involved an administration of an amnestic, a drug that would allow us to function normally while taking it, but not have any recollection of anything that happened while taking the drug. And he wouldn't tell me what the drug was. He said it was a new benzodiazepine. He said that after the term of our employment had ended, we would have a recovery period of a week or so, after which we would be free to go. He stressed that the work would be so valuable and the intellectual property involved was so sensitive that no part of our work could be taken away with us.
We wouldn't be allowed even to take our own clothing or personal items. We could occupy our free time with certain activities, but the materials for those activities would be supplied at our site of work. So the whole thing didn't seem on the level, but Mr. Channing was very persuasive. And, well, we were curious about the whole thing, so we agreed to meet him at the airport at 10:30 and some weeks later on a Friday. We cleared our calendars, we turned off our answering machine, we shut off the water.
We met Mr. Channing at the airport as scheduled. And I remember eating lunch somewhere in the terminal, but the memory is odd. It's like a dream. It's sort of a watery blur.
I only remember arriving in the cab outside the terminal and paying the cabbie. Our next memory is waking up in a nice hotel room downtown in a king-size bed. The clothing we came to the airport in was freshly laundered, and there was one suitcase which contained $400,000 in $50 bills. The hotel clerk told us that we had arrived the previous morning alone, and that we had only one bag. We discovered that it was January 11th, 2009, nearly 18 weeks since we met Mr. Channing at that airport.
We felt normal, and we looked the same to each other. You looked a bit tanner.
You looked paler to me. We immediately became fixated on trying to remember some scrap of the previous 4 months. We quizzed each other and tried to think of our daily habits and came up with nothing. All there was a growing feeling inside me that I had done something wrong or left something undone. I didn't feel like I was in control, and that feeling increased over the next few months. I felt depressed, then lost, but Abby actually had it worse than I did.
I started having unpleasant dreams, horrific nightmares, really. I was drawing fluid from a portacast on a catatonic, emaciated young girl, but it was on her hips, not on her shoulders, as it normally would be. I was holding down a girl who was suffering from seizure and dystotonus. I was putting the bodies into a body bag in a dark room. It wasn't always the same girl. Sometimes she looked Hispanic, sometimes she was Asian, but they were always girls, and they were always young.
Okay. We realized that our psychological problems were not just the result of prolonged administration of the amnestic. We felt certain that the amnestic was not just given to prevent us from stealing industrial or governmental secrets or whatever.
It's possible that we've been involved in something immoral, even illegal, or both. We must have done something that made us feel so...
In May, we received a letter from Zip Enterprises asking us to enroll for another 4-month stint. At first, we wanted nothing to do with it, but then we realized that the only way to find out what Zip Enterprises was doing was to go back and figure out a way to reverse the amnestic while we were there. Once we were in full capacity, we could then find out what was going on, who were the sick girls Abby was treating, what I was doing that made me feel so uneasy, and why we both seemed damaged. Abby is a skin cancer phobe. Every night she stands naked in front of the bathroom mirror and she looks at her skin for lesions under the fluorescent light. She even did this on our honeymoon. We felt reasonably sure that she would do this no matter what drug she was on. We resolved to create a situation that would exploit this habit of Abby's and allow her to at least temporarily reverse the effect of the amnestic.
I filled 10 cc scholastic surgical implant reservoirs with a mixture of flumazenol, fluorescence, and epinephrine. I implanted one under my left breast through a tiny incision and implanted one in Thomas's upper right inner thigh.
The reservoir is practically invisible in normal light, but if Abby lifts her arms over her head under the fluorescent light, there is a yellowish glow from under her left breast and a palpable lump.
I will most likely push firmly on the reservoir and it will rupture, and the flumazenol will reverse, probably temporarily, most, if not all, types of benzodiazepines, and the epinephrine will give a little stimulation as well as sustain the effect of the flumazenol. Once I'm free of the amnestic, I will contact Thomas and assist him with his awakening.
If something happens to Abby, I might accidentally pop my reservoir resting dumbbells on my leg while exercising, which is a habit of mine. It is possible that the drug is being administered in our water or foods. We won't know until it happens. So we're learning sleight of hand, pill hiding techniques, as well as false swallowing tricks to avoid coming under the influence again.
We are doing word and code puzzles to create recognition patterns that will allow us to communicate secretly. Our hope is that if the habit is there, it will out even under the influence of the amnestic. Once we're awake, we'll have to figure out a way to avoid administration of the amnestic and find out what Zip Enterprises is up to.
Our suspicion is that Zip Enterprises is using young girls for some nefarious purpose. These dreams seem to indicate that they are being mistreated and denied medical care or even killed. It is possible that these girls are being used for medical experiments. I think I've been on the acquiring or sales end. We don't have any idea at this point what there is to sell or where it comes from.
We're meeting Mr. Channing in about a week at the San Francisco airport, and I have a really bad feeling about this, but it needs to be done. We need to try and help.
We've planted this testament in such a way that one way or another it will be discovered, and hopefully in the circumstances and scenarios of us both being awake. So if someone is watching us and you can help, please help us, or please deliver this to the appropriate authorities.